What's up, YouTube? This is BoxingWave. Let's talk Adrien Broner. All right, I did cover the fight a little bit last week. I started a little late because I was still watching the Burchelt fight with Valdez. So I think I started covering that fight maybe in the fourth, fifth round somewhere. All right. I did watch the first few rounds, and I don't really think Broner won the fight. You know, what I will say is that the rounds where Broner did win, and when he started like coming on a little stronger, and like Broner always fights in spurts. He's not giving you a full 3 minutes of action. You know, and if he is giving you that, he's only doing it 2-3 rounds per fight. You know, Broner is just trying to do enough to win a fight. We've seen that with Adrien Granados. We've seen that with Jesse Vargas. You know what I'm saying? Like, Broner's not the type that is going to outwork you. You know what I'm saying? He just kind of just does enough to win when he's not fighting the very elite. If he's fighting the elite fighters, he's most likely going to lose. He's lost pretty much all of those fights. All right, but since 135, he hasn't really beaten a top fighter, in my opinion. And it is what it is. I'm far removed from Broner being this top fighter, pound for pound-ish fighter. You know, a Broner that is going to be prepared and focused Broner. Like, I'm years away from that. I've left that way of thinking a long time ago. It is what it is. Yeah, when he lost to Marcos Maidana, I said, okay, maybe he could come back and do something, because Maidana even gave Floyd some great work. But by the time, you know, after losing to Sean Porter and the fights that were after that, get into close fights with fighters that I didn't think he should be in close fights with, I'm far removed from Broner being more than what he actually is, which is, he's pretty much a journeyman, but he has a big name. He has a big name, you know, and he could sell a fight. But he is a journeyman, if we really being real about it at this point. And I was sitting here and I was trying to think of who he could fight. Now, if you was on a live commentary, I brought up names like Danny Garcia, because that was always a name that was out there. You know, I think the fight would have been a lot better maybe 4 years ago. You know, maybe around the beginning of the PBC years. You know, I think it's not a bad fight to make. You know, Danny is coming off the loss to Errol Spence, and I think he took the biggest beating in that fight. Keith Thurman, I brought up Keith Thurman the other night. I think Keith Thurman is a good name to have. You know, I don't think he could beat Keith, but Keith is a little past it. He's been very inactive, and he's coming off of all of these injuries and stuff like that. So I think Keith is a little past his prime, and he's not active at all. He hasn't been active at all for a long time. All right. Before the Josecito Lopez and the Pacquiao fight, he took a couple of years off. You know, and even before that, I believe Keith was only fighting like once a year. So Keith hasn't been active at all. You know, so I think Broner fighting him, that's another name. You know, I know these guys traded words with each other at one point. That's another possible matchup if we're just looking at names. I'm not talking about actual real competitive fights. I'm just saying Danny, Keith Thurman. Someone brought up Amir Khan the other day. All right, that's a real fight. That, I think that's a fight that is more of a 50-50 fight, because you have Khan, who to me is the better talent between the two overall. You know, I think he's even more accomplished. I know Broner has 4 titles in 4 different divisions. People love to bring that up, but who did he beat those 4 divisions he won titles in? All right, who did he beat each time? And you have to take that into account. You could just win titles in different divisions. Yeah, that's cool, but who are you facing? Are you facing in the best fighters in those divisions when you win the title? You know, I think Antonio DeMarco and Gavin Reese were two of his best wins, and those were years ago. You know, years ago at 135. I think since he moved up, I don't think he has better wins than those wins. I just don't think so. I think Paulie Malignaggi is cool. I think some of the other wins he have were debatable. You know, I don't think Broner really has any real great solid wins, in my opinion. You know, or he hasn't had them in a while. I think Broner was at his best at 135, and as soon as he moved up, it changed. It changed. It all changed. He was never great at 140. He was never great at 147. You know. So anyway, Amir Khan is a realistic fight. You know, because Amir Khan likes to fight guys with names. He wants to be in a pay-per-view. He likes to fight stars. You know, and I think that's a realistic fight. You know, a winnable fight. I don't think he could beat Thurman or Garcia, but I think the Khan fight is a winnable fight because we know that Khan, great talent and all, but he's always been chinny. You know, he's older and he's a little past his prime too. All right. But I wanted to go through BoxRec because I don't know what Broner is going to do. I don't know if he's going to try to stay at 140. We know that they changed the weight for this recent fight. He didn't look good against Santiago. All right. But what I will say again, I think when he is explosive and I think when he lands his punches, I think his punches landing were a lot more effective. It hurt Santiago more. But Santiago outworked him and was more consistent throughout the fight. And, you know, and I think the scorecards was, even if you think it was a draw, or even if you think Bruno won, it's like if you look at the scorecards, it looked like the scorecards were pre-written, you know. And that's the thing. I was just saying this about Abney Yildirim. Yildirim is in there to give Canelo work in between fights. All right. Santiago was there to be Broner's comeback fight for his layoff. He's not really there to be a contender, you know, a potential like win with Santiago. Let's bring him and get him to fight another top 140 guy. No. Now he's on people's radar, but the reason for the fight is to bring Broner back and get him back in the mix, you know, and for him to make money. So Santiago, yeah, it sucks that the scorecards went that way and he was robbed, but was anyone surprised? You know, I didn't see them giving Santiago any more than a draw. And even a draw was like, you give this guy a draw, it just makes Broner look worse. But we can still use Broner's name for a fight. And I think that was the goal. If we're looking at 140, you got Regis Prograis. Regis Prograis has been talking about fighting Broner, and Broner's been responding to those messages and stuff and those comments. The thing is, though, Regis Prograis will beat Broner at this point. You know, Regis Prograis will beat him, and it would be a good look for Prograis. It wouldn't be a good look for Broner. You know, it just wouldn't. Too much risk, not much reward. We know how these fighters are thinking. At the end of the day, would I like to see the fight? Sure. But again, even though Regis Prograis is not as accomplished as Broner is on paper, he has all the tools to beat Broner. Because Broner just doesn't let his hands go. And Broner hasn't done anything in his recent wins and make me think he can beat a Regis Prograis. Like, to me, that's not a 50-50 fight. That's like, Prograis should be the favorite to win that fight, just based on the work he's putting in. If you put Prograis in with Santiago, most likely Prograis would have stopped him. You know, if you put Prograis in there with Adrien Granados, most likely Prograis is going to stop him. Okay, I mean, it is what it is. You know, so I don't see the fight realistically happening because Prograis. I mean, at this point, you want to kind of save Broner for a name, you know. You want to save Broner for a good name. You don't want to put him in there with a fighter that is not going to give you crazy pay-per-view numbers or views, and he's likely to beat you. You know, they're not going to save him for that. They could put him in there and make him, put him in there with another name and make him fight someone that, even if he lose, like if he's going to lose to somebody, let him lose to someone with a name, not with someone that is going to come up off of beating Broner, right? So I don't see Regis Prograis being a realistic opponent for Broner. I think Josh Taylor, I mean, he already is going to be fighting Ramirez, but still, Josh Taylor would destroy Broner. Again, another fighter like Josh Taylor would destroy Broner. Even Jose Zepeda is like top guy at 140. Can Broner beat him? I don't think so. I wouldn't think so. I know that's probably going to sound crazy to some of you Broner fanatics, but Broner, again, Zepeda is better than some of the fighters that Broner went life or death with over the years. I think that's a closer fight to call, but Broner at the very best is at that level. At the very best. Josh, Prograis, they're above him at this point. Jose Ramirez, another guy, above him. Broner's going to lose just off the strength of being outworked. He's going to get outworked by Ramirez. We already know his style. He's not going to beat those guys. And I'm saying I'm just bringing up different guys in these divisions because I want to be realistic about it. I know Broner has a name. He has a name. We know that. But let's be real. Let's try to think of fights that can actually happen. That's realistic. He's not going to fight Easter Jr. Victor Postal. Is he going to fight a Victor Postal at this point? No, it's too risky. Look what happened against Santiago. Victor Postal arguably beat Jose Ramirez recently. Gave Josh Taylor one of his toughest fights. He's not going to fight even Victor Postal. He's not going to fight those guys. I can see Ivan Baranchyk is realistic. If Broner is going to fight someone that he can possibly win, that's more realistic. But even Ivan Baranchyk will still be a tough fight for Broner because he doesn't let his hands go. His volume is just too low. It's just too low. It's being real. It's be real about it. Like, it's not like, Broner has a name. And they have to be very careful on who they decide to put him in the ring with. Let me go to 142nd. He already fought Sean Porter. He already fought Mikey. Ugas is going to be fighting Spence. That's not going to happen. And that would be another fight that Bruno would probably lose. David Avenetian just beat Josh Kelly. Too risky. Too risky to put Broner in there with someone like him. Too risky. David doesn't have the name like that, and Broner wouldn't be fighting him. You don't want to lose to a David Avenetian. Danny Garcia, highly possible. Jesse Vargas already fought. Draw. I thought it was a legit draw. A legit draw. But again, Broner was down like 6 rounds, and then he had to come back and win every single round after that, in order to make it a draw. Is he going to fight Cavallascus? People say what they want about Cavallascus and Bud fighting him and stuff. But would Adrien Broner beat Cavallascus? Absolutely not. He would not do it. He's not going to do it. And I'm going through these names because, like, Jamal James. Would he fight Jamal James? It would be a risky fight. I'm not saying Broner lose every single one of these fights. But some of these fights, the name ain't that high, and he has a chance of losing. If he fought Josecito Lopez today, he is going to go to war with Jose. If he can't stop Lopez, and Lopez has been stopped before, but if he can't stop Lopez and it goes into a decision, it will be a close fight. Let's be honest about it. So if he's not gonna fight a name next, if they decide like, hey, we're gonna put him in there with another, if we're not gonna put him in there with a name yet, maybe not Danny, maybe not Keith, you know, maybe not even Amir Khan, you know. I see someone like maybe a Josecito Lopez, maybe a Sergey Limpinets. That sounds realistic, you know. Fights that are tough fights, good fights, but something that Broner can win. And it sucks because I feel like the way I'm talking, I feel like he has to be babysitted, man. You have to be very strategic on who you put him in a ring with at this point because he just doesn't have it. And I think he just doesn't have the drive to fight. This is not me being a hater. I'm just being realistic here. Like, when were you really impressed with a Broner's performance? When was the last time? I haven't been since 135. You know, so I think Broner is either probably going straight into one of these fights with one of these guys I named, the guys with names, maybe Amir Khan, maybe Thurman, maybe Danny. Or he is going to do a Sergey Limpinets type fight. You know, he's going to do, what's this other guy name? You know who he should fight? Amir Imam. I was thinking about that today. Fight Amir Imam. I know people are like, yo, why Amir Imam? He lost this. So what if he lost? Bruno has lost too. That would be a good fight. These are realistic fights that are winnable. Because once we start putting it up the top guys, the top names, Bruno can't win these fights. You know? Now I see his post, and he was talking about you know, him being a 4th division and, you know, people hating on him and Steve Farhood, and it's like, dude, he's talking delusional, man. He's being delusional. People don't think you won the fight against Santiago. You didn't look good. It is what it is. You've been inactive for 2 years. If you are anywhere in your career, it's because of you. Now, if you're losing and you're taking losses, and people are not just slandering you because you're taking losses, it's just that you talk so big, but you're not backing it up. And this is why people want to see him lose. People want to see Broner lose because he talks so much. And all he's doing is selling the fight. I get exactly what he's doing. I don't take Broner seriously, you know? But at the end of the day, it's like, bro, you're not performing. You're not performing. There's people that's doing way more. Yo, there's people. Oscar Valdez just knocked out Miguel Burchell. When's the last time Broner beat someone like a Miguel Burchell of their division? You know, Burchell had, what, like 6, 7 different title defenses? You know? When is the last time Broner beat a guy like that? It hasn't been since 135. That was great years ago. But you weren't a name yet. You were a prospect at that time. People were comparing you to Floyd. But when it's time for you to really step up, you took the losses. And you didn't stay at the division. You didn't go back down. You know, you started missing weight and having these catch weights. And I mean, you fought good fighters, but you didn't beat any of them. You know, so I think I've said everything I had to say. You know, I think those names that I brought up, out of the top names, I think Amir Khan, if I had to put it in the ring, like as far as like possible wins, I think Amir Khan is a possible win. I think even Keith Thurman is a possible win because Keith Thurman is just not active, man. You know, and if you're going 2 years without fighting, go into a fight with Lopez where you're almost stopped at some point. Fight a 40-year-old Pacquiao and you get dropped and you lose a decision to him, and to go another 2 years like he's doing now without fighting. I think Broner has some sort of a chance because, you know, Broner, I think, not Broner, I'm sorry, Thurman, some of his flaws has been exposed, you know, getting hit to the body and such. I think Thurman may not really be where he was, so I think that's possible. I think Danny beats Broner pretty easily, pretty clearly, in my opinion. As far as the rest of those guys, I think Amir Khan would be good. I think Sergey Lipinets would be good. I think Regis Prograis would be bad for him. You guys get it at this point. All right, but I think he still can be used for one more fight, one more name fight. Do I care to see it like that? No, I haven't seen a good Adrien Broner fight in a long time. One that I really enjoyed just because of his lack of volume. All right, but that's my thoughts, man. I think he still can be saved for one more fight just off his name. I just think I think he would probably need to have one more fight. Hopefully he can get back in the ring. Dedication means get back in the ring in another 3 months. If he can get back in the ring and if he could get down to 140. If he could get down to 140, I think that would be great. You know, or if he is going to fight at 147, fight one of those names. But I think if you really want to take this serious, I think he would try to stay fit now, fight one of the lower guys that I named, and then maybe fight one of those bigger names that I named. You know, maybe Keith Thurman or Danny Garcia, with them coming off of their losses, and then maybe bringing a big match, because they would make those fights would be pay-per-views. They would just do it strictly off their names. All right, but stay fit and, you know, stay active. And that's all I gotta say. All right, long video, but it's always fun talking about Bruno. I'll see you guys on the next one.